This is Mark Gunn Media.
Hit it!
Welcome to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm your host, Mark Gunn. The views expressed on this program are those of the host and guests and not necessarily reflective of anyone or any entity associated with this broadcast. This episode, Democracy Has Prevailed. My thoughts about the Biden-Harris inauguration. It's a new day in America. Its 46th president has been sworn in. In the presence of three former presidents, Joseph R. Biden Jr. placed his hand on an old family Bible and took the oath of office.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
Office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
And in another history-making moment, the first black woman of South Asian descent was sworn in as Vice President of the United States by the first Latina on the Supreme Court, Sonia Sotomayor.
What you are all about to be part of, America, is a historic moment of firsts. To administer the oath to our first African American, our first Asian American, and our first woman vice president, Kamala Harris, it is my great privilege to welcome to the inaugural stage the first Latina to ever serve on the Supreme Court of the United States of America, Justice Sonia Sotomayor.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the oath of office, followed by musical honors.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Kamala Davy Harris, do solemnly swear.
I, Kamala Davy Harris, do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
That I will well and faithfully discharge.
That I will well and faithfully discharge.
The duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
The duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right.
As a father, I'm very proud of Vice President Harris because it gives my daughter another example of endless possibilities. As a black man, I'm proud of Vice President Harris because of the efforts of other black women like Stacey Abrams and the record-breaking turnout of voters over the last election. Because of that, she's ascended to the nation's second highest office.
Kamala Harris making history as the first woman of color to be vice president.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right.
She's a woman of many firsts. The first black woman elected Attorney General of California. The first black and Indian American woman elected from the Golden State as a United States Senator. And the first black woman on a major political ticket for vice president.
Regardless of your gender, our country has sent you a clear message. Dream with ambition.
She's the daughter of immigrant parents, her father from Jamaica, her mother from India, who raised Harris and her sister mostly as a single parent.
When she came here from India at the age of 19, she maybe didn't quite imagine this moment.
Across the country, people were watching.
I've never seen anything like that before, and it gives me a lot of hope.
I have 4 girls, and for my kids, this is a chance to see the future.
And what does it mean to you personally?
We're finally giving women of color and Indian American women and immigrants
the moment that they have long waited for.
What does it say to you about the future?
I'm sandwiched in between my mother, who helped break the glass ceiling, and my daughter, who, I want her to know that the sky's the limit.
We are ready for change. The country is ready for inclusiveness.
While I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
Tonight, starting the next chapter in America's history.
With Kamala Harris, America witnessed another aspect of black culture that they don't often see. She's the first graduate of an HBCU to become vice president. Shout out to Howard University. She also had a secret weapon in her sorority, the Sisters of Alpha Kappa Alpha. Howard also got a chance to shine as its marching band escorted Vice President Harris and her family during their walk to the White House. I loved seeing women all over the country celebrating by donning two of Harris's signature style items, chucks and pearls.
From her sorority sisters to her closest friends, Vice President Kamala Harris got nationwide support today.
Women across the country put on their chucks and pearls in her honor. Janelle Bluta explains what today means for them.
Wearing her signature pearl necklace and earrings, Kamala Harris was sworn in today, the first woman to ever become Vice President of the United States.
Breaking all gender barriers, racial barriers, and equality barriers. So this is definitely a huge historical moment for us.
And women across the country are celebrating in solidarity, sporting their chucks and pearls in honor of our new VP. For Rose Pickens, it's a day she hopes her daughter will never forget.
We see a future for women of color.
Also in solidarity are Harris's sorority sisters.
Today was going to mark a day that I would remember for the rest of my life.
Jessica Hill says having that connection to Kamala made that moment ever more inspiring.
To be able to say, I'm a woman of Alpha Kappa Alpha too, and I can be just as great.
But for those who know Harris personally, today takes on a whole new meaning.
Just a moment where I'm just overwhelmed with pride.
Houston attorney Melanie Miles attended Howard University with Harris, where they joined AKA, a sorority known for wearing pearls as well. If it wasn't for the pandemic, she would have been at the inauguration in person, but says for these next 4 years,
there's nothing that we can't do. Is very empowering.
You can expect to find a strong and selfless leader in her close friend, Kamala.
I believe that she will want the spotlight not to be on her, but on what she's going to do for this country.
Speaking of fashion, former First Lady Michelle Obama absolutely slayed in her appearance.
Everyone online was talking about the fashion at the inauguration today, especially the look worn by Michelle Obama. She had on a matching purple turtleneck sweater and pants with a jacket by emerging black designer Sergio Hudson. And another young black designer, Christopher John Rogers, plus Hudson put together Kamala Harris's look, a purple dress and a long purple jacket with a black mask. Now, the men of the day, President Joe Biden and our country's first ever second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, they kept it classic. They both wore suits by Ralph Lauren.
And reaction was swift as she blew up the internet.
Michelle. Michelle! Hair, outfit, belt, shoes, I can't even see them. Barack, you look good too. But Michelle! That's all I gotta say.
Yes, Auntie Michelle slay. You see that plum? Yes. Okay, Auntie Kamala with the purple. This is the first time I've ever seen her wear a dress too. I don't know if it's just me, but that just made me so happy.
Donald Trump has told the American public he
look at Michelle!
This election.
Oh my God!
Repeated live from President.
Look at her! Oh my God!
Do you see this outfit? No, really, check out the fit. The fit is fire. The entire fit is saying, quit playing with me, I do this.
Girl fashion certainly had social media buzz today, and because all the main events were outside, it was all about the coats. Vice President Kamala Harris's coat was designed by Baton Rouge native Christopher John Rogers, the perfect shade of purple to make history today. Rogers posted on Instagram that he was honored to have played a small part in this historic moment.
There was a lot of symbolism with the color purple as well, as even former First Lady Hillary Clinton rocked a purple pantsuit. Purple is the official color of the women's suffrage movement, the National Women's Movement of 1913. It also symbolizes bipartisanship with a mix of red and blue. Coming up, more of my observations from the inauguration of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, right after this.
If you're an advertiser, one of the most important things about getting your message out is actually standing out from the rest of the crowd. If you're listening to this program right now, this is where you'd hear your commercial. As an exclusive sponsor of Gunshots Straight from the Hip, your commercial is professionally produced and gets a longer shelf life based on your needs. Gunshots Straight from the Hip is a unique and compelling program unlike anything else in the marketplace. Episodes are available for download on iTunes, TuneIn, and MarkGunMedia.com. And depending on how you tailor your message, the potential for new and repeat customers is that much greater. Best of all, it's extremely cost-effective. If you'd like more information on how you can be a sponsor of this broadcast, call Mark Gun Media, Inc. at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Or log on to markgunmedia.com. For downloads of this and past episodes and information about all the multimedia services we offer, log on to our website at www.markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com.
Welcome back to Gunshot Straight from the Hip. I'm Mark Gunn. Remember, you can subscribe and download past episodes wherever you get your podcasts. And if you use Apple, please leave us a review. It helps us to get more exposure on that particular app. And if you have any comments about this or any past episode, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at mark@markgunmedia.com or leave your feedback at 502-407-0283. That's mark@markgunmedia.com or 502-407-0283. We'll share some of your comments on future episodes. In this episode, I'm giving you some of my observations about the inauguration. As I watched more history in the making, I didn't feel the sense of overwhelming elation I felt when President Obama first took office 12 years ago.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will execute the office of President to the United States faithfully.
That I will execute
faithfully the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States faithfully.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
What I felt for the first time in a long time was a sense of calm. A calm because, unlike he that shall no longer be named, adults are actually going to be leading the country. Calm because of a president who comes from the Senate and will count on those relationships. Calm because even though I'm not naive enough to think that the Biden administration can wave a magic wand and things go back to normal, and that's a word I'll talk more about in just a little bit, I feel like his experience will at least help in getting things done. Now, back to that word normal. I've heard a lot of Americans say that they just want things to return to normal, and that bothers me, because normal in the United States means politicians working in their own self-interests instead of the interests of the American people. Normal means people going back to their safe spaces and ignoring racial injustices and embracing xenophobia. Normal means corporations continuing to take advantage of average folks like us, prices going up, wages going down. If anything, I'd like to see a new normal where this country finally has the courage to talk frankly about and finally deal with its oldest sin. A new normal where people can actually earn a living wage and more corporations become good corporate neighbors by helping the communities they're based in. A new normal where the people's business actually gets done and we're all better served for it. This inauguration was anything but normal, largely in part to the security concerns after the terrorist attack at the Capitol back on January 6th. To me, the non-normalcy wasn't a bad thing because you could actually focus on the people involved, like Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman, who received a very special honor.
That's Eugene Goodman, who has been given the honorary designation today of the acting Deputy Sergeant of Arms. And if you're not familiar with his story, then we'll try to do it justice in these few moments we have. He's walking with Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff, and he has that point of honor because he was on duty, Capitol Police officer, on that day, January 6th. And as the mob approached, a camera captured his quick thinking as he led the mob away from what he knew to be an open door right into the Senate chamber. And in doing so, could have perhaps prevented untold harm. And he has been commended for that action. And there's talk of a Congressional Medal of Honor for him. And today he has the honor of escorting Doug Emhoff and soon-to-be Vice President Kamala Harris.
So many images of that day, and so many of them horrifying, but that was certainly one of bravery and quick thinking and all the things that we would hope in a horrible situation like that. And so Kamala Harris, Doug Emhoff will make their way to the door and will be officially announced and presented as they take their place for the inauguration and swearing in.
The acting Deputy House Sergeant at Arms, Kevin Grubbs, and the acting Deputy Senate Sergeant at Arms, United States Capitol Police Officer, Private First Class Eugene O. Goodman.
And that earned a rousing applause.
America also got to witness the birth of its newest rising star, National Youth Port Laureate Amanda Gorman.
When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. And the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is hours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew. That even as we hurt, we hoped. That even as we tired, we tried. That we'll forever be tied together, victorious. Not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it in its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Because of her appearance at the inauguration, Ms. Gorman now finds herself atop the bestseller list with her 2 books. The overall theme to President Biden's speech was unity, and he addressed the challenges to that unity, including systemic racism and white supremacy.
Once-in-a-century virus that silently stalks the country has taken as many lives in 1 year as America lost in all of World War II. Millions of jobs have been lost. Hundreds of thousands of businesses closed. A cry for racial justice, some 400 years in the making, moves us. The dream of justice for all will be deferred no longer. A rise of political extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism that we must confront and we will defeat. To overcome these challenges, to restore the soul and secure the future of America requires so much more than words. It requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy: unity.
The fact that systemic racism and white supremacy were even mentioned at all was unique in and of itself. When you consider the team that President Biden has around him and the voting bloc that got him elected, it only makes sense that he would.
What was on display for the American people on January 6th was not an attractive image to the vast majority of people. That there's something about that I do think can be helpful in showing the sheer ugliness of what was there all along.
Yes, 100%. And I think it went from kind of abstract theory to seeing white supremacy in action, seeing domestic terrorism on our TV screens 2 weeks to the day before a new president is sworn in. And I think that's so important. And isn't it ironic, Chris, that you have, all these candidates ran for president on the Democratic side. It was the old establishment white guy who won, an old establishment white guy who had a pretty bad record on race and working with segregationists in the Senate. And yet he launched his campaign with an ad, with a video about Charlottesville and very fine people on both sides. He was the guy in the debate. We talk about Donald Trump saying to the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. It was Biden who prompted him, who provoked him into saying that. It was Biden who named the Proud Boys, said condemn them. So he has made fighting white supremacy part of his campaign from day one. Yeah. You mentioned the DOJ stuff. We've got the speech today, as Jelani pointed out, the first reference to white supremacy. Michelle rightly points out this is not some fake bipartisan unity. Now, of course, what will we see? What action will we see? There's always a danger that Biden reverts to form and says, they've had an epiphany. Trump's gone. Work with me, all of you in the Senate. And actually, we need to keep up the pressure on the white supremacists because, look, Donald Trump's not on Twitter and those gatherings weren't huge, but it's not gone away. Yeah. In fact, we saw under Obama the paranoia, the gun sales, having a black woman as vice president. These people are not going to suddenly stop being angry or violent. And now is not the time to suddenly let our guard down, even though it was great to see normalcy in Washington, D.C. today.
Now, because of those remarks, you had Republicans like Rand Paul whining and saying that they went below the belt. Well, when you belong to a party that traffics in racism, the truth will always hurt. Maybe, just maybe, Biden and Harris will be the ones to push a long overdue and much needed come to Jesus conversation on race. Speaking of Jesus, I'm not the most religious person, but over the last 4 years, I got nauseous every time I heard some hypocritical white evangelical Christian or black step-and-fetch-it poverty-pimping preacher mention Jesus' name because of their slavish cult-like devotion to whom I saw as the Antichrist, he who shall no longer be named. The sheer hypocrisy made me want to nail those blasphemous idiots to the cross. However, when President Biden, a devout Irish Catholic, evoked the name of God, I felt his faith and his earnest sincerity. Think about it. A man who's dealt with all of the tragedy in his life, burying a wife and 2 children, and still has a strong faith in his Lord and Savior when a lot of other people would question theirs, he can't be anything but genuine. Again, I'm not a religious man, but I take great comfort in that. I also take comfort in the fact that you have experience in the Oval Office, meaning that the Biden administration is hitting the ground running.
The new president got straight to work in a partially revamped Oval Office, signing a series of executive orders and actions. He's expected to sign 10 more today as part of an aggressive new effort to control the pandemic.
Those executive orders are designed to expand access to testing and to vaccination programs across the country. And in another sign of how things are changing this morning, the new White House chief medical advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, addressed the World Health Organization, a group the United States is set to rejoin. His remarks came exactly 1 year to the day of the first confirmed case of COVID-19 in this country. President Biden's new nationwide COVID strategy includes getting 100 million vaccines into the arms of Americans by the end of April and safely reopening schools in the next 100 days. The Biden administration plans to set up vaccine centers at stadiums and community centers and to deploy federal personnel to help administer shots. Overall, Mr. Biden is expected to sign 10 executive orders today that, among other things, require mask wearing on planes and trains and establish a health equity task force focused on racial disparities. Mr. Biden and his staff got straight to work on day one.
And I thought with the state of the nation today, there's no time to waste. Get to work immediately.
In a redecorated Oval Office, the new president signed 17 other executive orders and actions, mostly rolling back President Trump's signature policies. They end the so-called Muslim travel ban, cancel the Keystone XL pipeline permit, and halt funding for the southern border wall. The U.S. will also rejoin the Paris Climate Accord.
These are just executive actions. They are important, but we're going to need legislation for a lot of the things we're going to do.
The administration is focused on setting a new tone.
We're going to be judged whether or not we restored the integrity and the competency of this government.
And White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said there would be a return to regular briefings.
When the president asked me to serve in this role, we talked about the importance of bringing truth and transparency back to the briefing room.
Hello, Kathy.
President Biden also made his expectations clear to more than 100 new staff during a virtual swearing-in ceremony.
If you're ever working with me and I hear you treat another colleague with disrespect, talk down to someone, I promise you I will fire you on the spot. On the spot. No ifs, ands, or buts. Everybody is entitled to be treated with decency and dignity. That's been missing in a big way the last 4 years. I'm going to make mistakes when I make them. I'll acknowledge them, and I'll tell you. And I'll need your help to help me correct them.
Also this morning, the Department of Homeland Security is starting a 100-day moratorium on deportations and ending the Trump-era policy of requiring non-Mexican asylum seekers to stay in Mexico ahead of their court hearings. And an example of how the new president is re-engaging the world, the White House says that his first call to a foreign leader will be to our neighbors to the north. He's scheduled to speak with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tomorrow.
The new president will have some challenges when it comes to actually passing legislation. America has been governed mostly by executive orders over the last 6 years, which can be undone by the next president. Having Vice President Harris in charge of the Senate to break any ties and Chuck Schumer as the new majority leader helps. But Americans want to see a government that actually works for its citizens. As Mr. Biden told his appointees, we work for them. Finally, because of his long history of racism and the damage that he's done to this country, I don't mind admitting that I will always have a visceral hatred for he who shall no longer be named, and hope that Lady Karma gives him exactly every receipt he's got coming. May not be right, but as he once said, it is what it is. I'll say a prayer for this new administration in hopes that it can not only begin to heal the wounds of the last 4 years, but that the rest of the country gains the courage to heal its oldest open wound. I'm also going to hope for the best for President Biden and Vice President Harris, but I'll also be watching not only the next 100 days, but for the next 4 years. In closing, I'm going to say something I haven't been able to say in 4 years. Good luck, Mr. President.
You've been listening to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and not reflective of any business entity or anyone associated with this broadcast. If you have any comments or want more information on how to be a sponsor, log on to our website at markgunmedia.com or call us at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Thank you for listening.
Mark Gun Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.